couches are tough too, right? It's like TVs because they're in that big open showroom space. They don't seem that big.
They don't seem that big.
And then you get it home and you're just like, oh man, this thing is huge.
Yeah.
We did that with the TV.
We did that with the TV. And the couches I get as well. And I would pick function over fashion for a couch in my living room as well, because I like the idea of like the perfect couch. I understand not for the main floor, I lose that battle every time, but for the basement, I'll flip that out. Anyways, welcome to our real estate morning show. This is where we get together every week and talk all things real estate. On my left, I have my wife Jennifer. On my right, I have my mother Cecilia, founder of the Sobernago Real Estate Team. 1978, we've been going strong. And so today, imagine, right? Today I want to jump right into talking about open house signs, because we're getting to that time of year. It's getting busy again. Some of the snow's finally melting away. I got tired of climbing up snowbanks to put the signs up.
Just to have them fall over.
Just have them fall over. And we had some really big wind too. But a lot of townships municipalities have started outlining or restricting the rules on the open houses. Maybe some people might have noticed. Richmond Hill being one of them, that they're not allowed at all.
At all. They have eliminated the use of the open house signs. And I'll tell you, the visualization of the landscape driving through your neighborhoods now is noticeably different from the Saturdays and Sundays, where some agents really were abusing the open house regulations, that they would put them up the Friday night, take them down Monday morning, rather than the half hour before and the half hour afterwards. But when you're driving through major intersections now and they're free of open house signs, it's kind of nice.
Yeah, it looks nice.
That's nice. My brain goes the exact opposite. I'm like, well, how do people know?
Where is everybody?
Know there's an open house? They're
And
going to think we don't do them anymore.
And so obviously this got cracked down on because I think the system was being abused. There were some teams and people putting out 4 of their own signs at one intersection on one side. It's like you're not really directing now, you're advertising.
And some people just weren't taking them down.
Leaving them out. They're like, hey, this is free advertising for me. I don't have to pay for the bus bench ad, when I can just leave my sign out.
But I think ultimately, though, the question is, who did the open house signs benefit? Are they for the seller, the client? Are they for the agent? Or are they for the consumer?
Trying to find the house.
That's trying to find the house. I think that a committed, dedicated, on-purpose buyer maps out their route now online, rather than randomly driving through neighborhoods. I think that you still have random driving through neighborhoods to check things out, but I think that you're more dedicated,
you're ready to
on
go
purpose,
buyers.
ready to go buyer is mapping themselves online. So when we're hosting open houses and we ask when they come in the door, how did you find us? Open house signs or online? 9 out of 10 say they found us online.
Yeah, which is funnier because I have the opposite experience, that a lot of the time people will say, oh, we saw the signs. Like, we were out going to open houses and we saw your sign and came in. Yeah. So they might have been on the list, but they saw the sign and came anyway, right? Yeah. But I do agree with you. I think most people are actively online first. But there is an element, at least from what I've experienced over the years, that the signs do get people to come to the houses. They do.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah. I think you're right. I think it is the more ready to go. If we were going to classify them, it's usually the ready to go buyer that found you online, and it's the either just getting started buyer or somebody from the neighborhood that sees the signs and says, "Hey, I'm going to come out."
Exactly.
Sure.
So just to run through how that stands, Toronto right now is open houses are still allowed, but only during the hours of the open house, probably 30 minutes before the signs, before and after. Richmond Hill, no open house signs allowed at all. Markham's still allowed. Newmarket's still allowed. Vaughan, 3 per house. Stouffville, not allowed. And Oakville, we said, moved theirs from allowing 3 signs to 5 signs.
5 signs per property.
And all of these still have other little restrictions, but I'm not getting into the weeds on that. Yeah. They're either allowed or not allowed, basically, here. Yeah. And so that's kind of the way it is. I don't think it's a terrible thing, but I mean, the open house signs still do make a difference, getting people into the house, helping them find the house.
Absolutely.
And even Vaughan allowing 3, that's a tough one. If you're in the subdivision, 3 signs doesn't get you very far.
Oh,
one at the main gate, one at the corner.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then, I think it's hard, right? But I'm just looking at the Toronto one and thinking only during the hours of the open house. So when do you put them up?
Yeah, exactly.
If it has to be 2 to 4 or whatever that is, I'm sure they're going to be okay with a 130 kind of
absolutely.
sign, right?
And I don't think they're strictly as cracking down on those as much. But
the
some of them, because they have to say what the address of the house is and the time of the open house, that's on the signs. Yeah. Exactly, that's where.
And for the municipalities that are going to enforce the no open house signs, if they're if the municipalities are out working that day to retrieve the signs that aren't supposed to be there, they are charging a pretty penny for the agents to come back and collect them
signs, exactly.
within a limited time frame.
Yeah. It's not a small amount by any means. I think it's almost cheaper to get new signs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty much. So the landscape has changed for open houses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, wow. And you know what? There's a good side to it too, because when those corners got that cluttered, visibility. There were visibility issues and stuff. So I can see. Yeah, good point. I can see that being a safety concern as well.
I think ultimately it is for the better. Yeah. And we have the internet, so people still find houses.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. The next topic I want to talk about is home insurance. We've heard a couple stories recently where buyers have gone through with the purchase of the home, everything's been waived, but of course your lending is, whether the mortgage is insured or not, the lending is contingent on the house being insured. And so typically this was always an issue where we thought, is the house insurable because of whatever effects might be going on with the house?
Yes.
Can we get fire insurance on it, stuff like that?
Right, electrical,
electrical being one of the big ones.
Yeah.
But stuff has started to come out talking about the actual buyer not being able to get insurance. And this is if you had too many claims against you or something like that, where an insurance company would look at you and be like, yeah, we don't want to give you insurance. Yeah, just as if you were, for your car insurance, if you had too many tickets or too many accidents, anything like that, that they wouldn't get insurance.
Yeah, it used to be that we would consider that was just simply the property itself insurable.
Exactly.
Because of electrical, because of septic, because of potable water, because of aluminum wiring or whatnot. But sometimes it is based on the absolute individual buyer themselves. If you have made, for instance, one or two, we've read 2 claims a year. Yeah. If your home was broken into, if your car was stolen, if your kids' bikes in the backyards were stolen, and you made an insurance claim on those, and if in the same year you were buying a new home and wanting to insure that new home, that you yourself may not be insurable.
Exactly. So insurance company's going to look at you and see how much are they going to have to potentially pay you out. If you have a history of that for whatever reason, they'll
like
look
a history of making claims.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So they're looking at behavior as well, like patterns, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it may just be bad luck for you that it happened so many times. Like there's a case study that we were looking at where it was a couple where they lived in the city and a couple of bikes got stolen, then the car got stolen, then something else got broken into, and they made claims obviously every time this happened. And so it was a lot of money that the insurance companies were paying out, or that company was paying out, and they didn't want to insure them. A couple main guys didn't want to insure them. They had to go to essentially a B insurer where they were paying almost 5 times as much as they would normally. Yeah. So they obviously were still able to go through the purchase, but had to pay a big premium for it.
Yeah, take a hit on
because
budget.
ultimately, if you are not able to insure that property, then you're not obtaining that mortgage, because the mortgage must be insurable for of course,
and you have to show proof of insurance in order for the mortgage money to get discharged anyway, right, with the lawyers. So.
Yeah, and so some tips obviously on making sure that this doesn't happen to you is prior to putting in an offer, make sure that you reach out to your home insurance company and see what that would look like on that home, and so that they feel comfortable. So beforehand if you're able to get the insurance or not, or you could potentially make the offer conditional on you getting insurance. Yeah. In more competitive markets, obviously that's a harder thing to get a seller to agree to, but either way, something.
But build it into the 5-day conditional finance. Build it into that.
I was gonna say, when I first moved from Niagara to Toronto and made that shift, insurance was a way more important condition than home inspection was. So when I was moved here and was learning how real estate's done in Toronto, it was really weird for me because I kept being well, but what about insurance? Because it was one of the prime ones, but the reason obviously being you had a higher water level, homes were on piers, you had older cottages that weren't winterized properly, so there was a bigger factor, overall. But I remember just being why don't people care about insurance? What is this? It was always so funny to me. But then you get used to it just being a standard that people can get insurance, one way or another. So it's not, but it obviously is a bigger factor than maybe we're thinking, right?
The worst part about this is that comes up the other idea of when do you make a claim? Right? Because people have this with their car insurance sometimes. You get a little fender bender, you get a little bit of this. Is it worth making a claim to your insurance company where potentially you'll get it covered and you'll get reimbursed, but now do your rates go up? Are you one step closer to potentially rates going up if you had another claim or if you had a ticket or any of that stuff,
and if you have, let's say a bigger accident or your car gets stolen and it's a big ticket, you're going to have to claim for that, obviously. But then if you've already made these smaller claims, then how does that impact you not only on your car insurance, but then also
later
potentially on your home insurance, right?
Yeah.
And that could get quite costly.
Unfortunately, insurance is just a racket.
I think so much has to do with your deductibility as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, suck it up and pay.
Yeah.
No, don't make that claim unless you have to.
Unless you have to. Yeah.
So, changing topics here, I want to talk about drones for a little bit. We've got new guidelines coming out for June 1st. They're going to tighten those guidelines on who can fly drones and what regulations they have to follow. And in our industry, drones have become a lot more prevalent than they ever were before.
The last few years.
Yeah. It used to just be the rural properties that were using them, and then it became like the really big luxury homes that were using them, and now you see them used on a lot of properties.
Yeah.
Sometimes properties that really don't need it at all, but you know, it looks pretty.
Every once in a while you see one, you're like,
I can see everybody's backyard in your shot. I don't know why we're looking at this. Or it's just like 10 feet high coming up the driveway. You're like, okay, I guess you needed a drone for that. But so anyways, they're tightening the rules, and this is something that I guess we'll watch a little bit more closely, but I don't think it's going to affect any of the big companies that most agents are hiring. It'll probably just affect the rural guys that were doing it on their own beforehand.
Independent,
independent, or even agents that had bought drones, because at the time, I remember we bought a drone.
You had one,
our team has a drone,
and so the drone was about three tours of ordering drones. So you use the drone 3 times, you've got your money back.
You've paid,
Exactly, so...
provided you haven't caused any damage.
Provided you don't cause any damage, right? And so, but I think that's why they're doing this, with these things being in the air and just more people being able to fly them. The idea that more damage could be done, or who's liable for what, and making sure things are covered, that this is probably a good thing. There's a panel tonight and tomorrow on the new rules, but they don't come out until June.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I mean, again, in regards to regulations, oftentimes we need increased and improved regulations because of past events that have happened. And certainly drones being new in the industry, they need to be monitored.
Especially when you've got people flying them through like airspace and in harassing other people with them. You hear some stories like people doing weird stuff with drones, right?
There was a story last year where coming into I forget what airport it was, but there was a drone that almost hit a plane. Like on landing.
That's
right. It was last summer, I think.
Yeah, I remember that. I can't remember where it was either, but I remember us talking about it.
Now, if I remember in the article, the height that they said the drone was really high, so it was unlikely that it was one of the regular photography drones. It was more likely a bigger drone. And I remember reading in the comments, obviously all the drone fanatics came and were defending, like, the regular drones don't go that high. There's no way it was a drone. It was something else. But then other people have pointed out a bigger, more commercial drone easily could have done that. So
it was very recent in a major airport in Europe that they closed the airport for 3 full days because of drones flying in airspace.
Oh, really?
And they never found the fella, but they grounded planes because of a drone. 2 or 3 days.
I watch some drone accounts on YouTube, and I see them flying pretty close to public areas, and I'm like, I can't believe that they're doing that, because even in Canada prior to, you're not allowed to fly near large masses of people without obviously certificates and permits and all that kind of stuff. And some of these things look pretty amateur, so I am surprised that, there's a reason that they're implementing these rules. So I'm surprised that people would do that just in general, right?
Well, common sense isn't always people's strong point, right? But I think it is, in going back to the real estate of it all, there are those conversations around even privacy and stuff. We were talking on this earlier, right? Like, if the drone is over a subdivision where there's 10, 15, 20, 30 backyards, do those people have to sign off on their footage now being in this shot that's getting promoted all over social media and all these other spaces, right? And what's the privacy element of it? So I think overall, it's good that they're regulating it, but we'll see what they come up with.
Yeah, and I mean, does that make our virtual tours or our drone tours more expensive now? That if they have to jump through more hurdles, they have to carry higher insurance, stuff like that, because their monthly expenses will be higher as well.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So I would assume it would go hand in hand.
Yeah, it usually gets passed on to the
And there won't be any more
DIYs
for drones, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Yours, you might have to park yours or get licensed.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on, we'll talk a little bit about pricing strategies for listings and for sellers. Talking about how much room do we leave? Do we want to price a little bit higher than market value and then leave us room to negotiate down? Do we want to price at market value, or do we price under market value and try to generate that buzz and activity.
Yeah.
And so obviously this is a discussion that changes depending on the market.
The market, yeah.
Is very, very impactful. I mean, and we've seen this change even through the last 12, 13 years that we've been doing it, and then probably even longer for you, how it's gone in terms of where our pricing strategies go. And now, because we've come after this correction, we're probably seeing it more than ever, vary by pocket by pocket.
Oh,
like the city is still very, you got to be competitive. You want to hold offers in a lot of places. And then we're seeing that come up north now. We had multiple offers in Vaughan last night.
Yeah.
And then we've got some areas of, Richmond Hill and Aurora in certain detached pockets where we're still seeing not as many sales, not as many buyers come through, where you need to leave yourself just that little bit of wiggle room.
Absolutely. And I think too, analyzing it from neighborhood to neighborhood, where we were going through stages of what was average was, 93, 94% of list price. Seriously, right? And so there, I think you want to price your seller in that category where those buyers are expecting to have 93, 94% of list price, or they're expecting to have 97, 98% of list price. But if you are operating in a neighborhood that currently, in that stretch of time that you're there for, is riding 99, 99.5, 99.9% list price or more, that's what it's more based on. Whether you do or whether you don't, I think you have to take that completely into consideration.
Yeah, and I think there's also the entire other conversation of where does your house land in the competition, right? So, if there's 10 other houses on the market at the same time and we know that 3 of them are going to sell, even if it's at 97 or 94 or 93% of list price, what do you have to price at to be the one of the 3 that gets picked?
Exactly.
In order to not be the guys that sit there for the 30, 60, 90 days, right? 120, probably longer in some cases. So I think that's a big factor too, is like, as you said, it's your micro market, right? What's happening in your specific neighborhood. And then, if you want to sell in our current market, you have to be competitive, right? You can't, the overpriced conversation, like, sometimes we say, okay, we want to sell at this, so we'll leave this 10 or 20 as negotiation room. But in our market right now, in some areas, I think if you do that, people are just not even going to look at your house. So then there's that conversation of then is it market price, or do you go slightly below market and then hope to be the number 1 pick so you get the 2 or 3 buyers all trying to get you, right?
Yeah, and ultimately I think that general way of marketing, of leaving yourself enough room to negotiate down, is such an old way of looking at how buyers buy homes and price them and negotiate for them. And we've seen obviously in the last decade of how buyers have gotten so much more informed about what's going on in the market and pricing, and that's only become more and more true in the last couple of years as sale prices are easily accessible.
Because of the transparency.
Of it. And so if you're not priced like right at market value, if people don't deem value in you right away, they're just not going to come to you.
Right.
And then the longer you sit on the market, the more opportunity you have for that one guy to come in and give you a low ball. Everybody sees you as tired, wonders what's wrong with the listing.
Assume there's an issue with the home.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately you're going to end up with less than you would have if you just priced it accurately to begin with. I think that's the one true fast rule, is price as close to value as you can, because buyers know what value is, and buyers are the ones that determine value. And so if they don't see it and they know that you're priced high, you're only kicking yourself. You're only hurting yourself in this instance.
And then that in exactly what you're saying, but that when you do allow for that addition of room to negotiate or whatever that looks like, buyers don't care about that, right? They're just like, if your house is worth 600, I'm going to pay you 600, and they're going to be okay with that. So if you're listed at 600, you could then be the guy that gets the 100% in a neighborhood where everyone else is maybe listed at 610, 620 and getting, 94%, 93%, because they're still using the old technique, right?
And ultimately more buyers are going to come to you anyway because you're new on the market, you're exciting, and they see you priced accurately compared to the guys they're potentially
I think too, what we're seeing in the last 3 to 4 weeks is agents that are pricing according to current market, but combine that with a bit of a vibe and a bit of a spring and a bit of March break, pre-Easter pricing, that some of them have been taken a bit by surprise by the turnout. The buyer pool has increased a little bit in some neighborhoods. Some buyers are saying, okay, we have waited and we've watched the market, now it's time for us to jump in. So it's suddenly, what was a marketplace that 950,000 was sitting around for 3, 4, 5 months last year, 950 now is like oh, that's pretty exciting. And now we've got 3, 4, 5, 6 buyers that are interested in that property, because now the buyers have finally decided to come out and to participate in the marketplace. So they are now, then there is that 100% or that little bit of a creep up now that seems to be happening in some neighborhoods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you get more guys on one house.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, that is our show for today. You can find us on the 3 major platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The long form of the show always comes up on YouTube on Saturday morning. Instagram, you'll see us throughout the week. Facebook, you'll see us throughout the week, where we dissect some of the topics that we discussed right here on this very show, along with other news. So we hope that you will find us there. And until next week, we'll see you soon.